I'm going to have Isaac because that's a child to love me unconditionally.
Kail Lowry is no stranger to making headlines, and just recently, her controversial parenting landed her in some seriously hot water. During one of Kail's latest podcast episodes, she shared a very unexpected story. Apparently, her 13-year-old son had called her out for being an irresponsible mom. She seemed to think that the entire situation was funny, but her listeners haven't been able to find the humor in it. And you guys are never going to believe the crazy truth behind Kail's reckless parenting. In a recent episode of Kail's Coffee Convos podcast, she claimed that her house is a free-for-all when it comes to what her kids say. But as weird as that seemed, nothing could compare to the bizarre confession she made next. Kail opened up to her co-host Lindsay Chrisley about an incident involving her oldest son Isaac. The whole ordeal was actually really unsettling, but the way Kail explained it was honestly shocking. Kail revealed that she had been filming some content for a brand's promotional post on her social media, but the products she was sent to promote were intended to only be used by adults, and they had very intimate purposes, if you know what I mean. Kail said that she left the products in an open box that was sitting on top of the kitchen counter. She went to sleep later that night and didn't think anything of it, but when she woke up the next morning, she made a startling discovery. On both of the doors leading to her bedroom, Kail found confrontational messages written on post-it notes from her oldest son. It turned out that Isaac had seen the box of products in the kitchen and he was not happy about it. Isaac was not impressed that Kail had left the adult products out where his younger brothers could easily find them. He made that incredibly clear in the notes he wrote, which were also extremely telling. One of Isaac's messages directed his mom to put her keychains away and not leave them out on the counter. Kail admitted to Lindsay that she wasn't sure why he had called the products keychains, but that should have been the least of her worries. In a second note, Isaac told Kail to use a form of birth control before she ended up having yet another kid. She was actually laughing as she told Lindsay about the incident, which is only one of the reasons the situation is so alarming. It seems like the majority of Kail's followers agree that her podcast story wasn't funny at all. In fact, most of them found it unbelievably troubling. A lot of people think there's an obvious problem between Isaac and Kail based on what he wrote to her. I have to admit, it does seem pretty concerning that he's that uneasy about his mom potentially having any more kids. Allegedly, Kail secretly welcomed her fifth child in November with her boyfriend and fourth baby daddy, Elijah Scott. They reportedly had another son, but they aren't publicly sharing the news. Even if that's mainly Elijah's decision, it still makes how Kail publicly talks about her other son seem so ironic. Kail doesn't appear to have any problem at all with publicly revealing certain things that most people would be embarrassed by and choose to keep private. But obviously, she doesn't care about the backlash she's getting for essentially outing herself as a bad mom. Isaac is a teenager now, and I'm sure most of his friends and classmates know who his mom is. They could easily listen to or read about the cringe-worthy discovery he made in his own kitchen. But the main reason why people are so upset by Kail's story is truly disturbing. Strangely enough, Kail found the incident hilarious, but the basic details of what happened aren't funny at all. There's a reason why the products she left out are intended for adults only. Clearly, they are not appropriate for children, which everyone should already understand. Aside from the rumored secret baby, Kail's sons are 2, 5, 9, and 13 years old. If Isaac's younger brother had stumbled across the adult products first, they could have been exposed to something extremely inappropriate. No matter what, it just seems sad and wrong that Isaac had to step in and tell his own mom how to be a responsible parent. But his obvious concern about her having another child is impossible to ignore. Isaac's message only made the critics accusing Kail of being an unfit mom seem more logical. Most people would be mortified by even the thought of their kids accidentally finding products like that. But it's becoming very apparent that Kail isn't like most parents. Even without factoring in the recent unbelievable situation, Kail has faced a lot of criticism lately for her parenting choices. One of the accusations she's since denied came from a TikTok comment, and it was actually pretty eye-opening. Not that long ago, Kail addressed a rumor that Isaac was being forced to take care of and raise his brothers, but the way she fired back at the allegation was honestly ridiculous. During an episode of her other podcast, Baby Mama's No Drama, Kail denied that Isaac was being forced to take on any of her parenting responsibilities. She claimed that the rumor wasn't true because Isaac supposedly doesn't like kids and thinks they're disgusting. Needless to say, Kail's odd reasoning left a lot of listeners totally stunned. She could have just explained that Isaac is still a child and it's not his place to worry about taking care of his brothers. But if the accusation really was completely false, that makes one of Kail's other TikToks seem very incriminating. Last year, Kail shared a clip of Isaac brushing his 5-year-old brother Lux's hair. I have a feeling he wasn't helping out just to be a nice big brother, and not just because he allegedly doesn't like kids. This is seriously outrageous. In the video, Kail revealed that the only person Lux will let brush his hair is Isaac. I don't know about you, but that doesn't exactly line up with the argument that Isaac doesn't help take care of his brothers. No wonder he doesn't want his mom to have any more kids. Just a few months ago, Kail was also put on blast for what many people consider trash parenting. She had shared a TikTok of Creed, her 2-year-old, attempting to count all of his siblings. But what she was accused of doing behind the scenes was absolutely crazy. In the clip, Creed's answer for the number of brothers he had was surprising. He counted to 4 right before he let out a curse word. Kail could be heard laughing before the recording stopped, but that's not the only reason why her followers were appalled. Some people slammed Kail for thinking it was cute or funny to film her toddler swearing, especially because his answer being filmed was clearly to stir up more talk about her secret baby. But most of her followers were upset that it seemed like she had encouraged or even coached Creed into saying it. I can't lie, it is kind of hard to believe that a toddler would respond in that exact way. It really did seem to be more than just a coincidence, especially since Kail managed to catch it perfectly on camera. For some weird reason, Kail seems to find it cute to regularly share clips of her son swearing. She seems to find it entertaining that her kids don't have the same sense of innocence that most children have. Arguably, that basic level of childlike innocence is something that young kids should have. This honestly makes Kail's parenting seem less questionable and more traumatizing. If Kail truly understood how troubling it was that her sons were exposed to adult products, she wouldn't have broadcasted the incident involving Isaac. And the same goes for encouraging her toddler to swear on camera, especially for a ridiculous reason. It seems like Kail is either failing to see how she's exploiting her kids on social media and her podcast, or she just doesn't care. She has also repeatedly shared her son's uncomfortable moments that are sometimes even harmful. I don't understand how she can't see that she isn't doing them any favors. If one thing is obvious, it's this. Kail's awkward and disturbing story that she shared on her podcast clearly exposed her as an irresponsible mom. But what are your thoughts on Isaac's notes calling out Kail's parenting? Do you think the criticism she's been facing for being a reckless mom is fair, or is it going too far? Let me know in the comments below.